Okay, thanks. So the third scenario that I'm going to talk about is looking at the scenario that is a cascading of default of several Eurozone countries. So default is one of the things that we've seen some historical events in the past, although that might be seen as not an event that has happened quite severely. So in this scenario, we look at various economic shocks we will have, and also based on these economic shocks, we look at the exit of several European countries, starting with the exit of Italy. So one of the key factors that impact a chance for default of a country is the amount of debt that is accumulated. And on this network, we can see the net balance of various countries' debt exposure to each other. That is a chart shows basically the imbalances that we can see. So in our scenarios, we will have three major scenarios with these countries that you can see that in our largest event, we are looking at 17% of global GDP. So as I said, just to look at and give an idea of the debt amount that the various countries that are ranked, we can see large numbers as a ratio of their GDP, and with the euro area, that's also quite increasing, and we can see, especially for PIGS countries, which is significantly higher than the others. So this is just to give an idea of the one of the major causes that would initially might trigger a default. So this is basically an illustration from the Cities at Risk project that we have categorized various countries based on the based on their credit ratings, and also we have basically shown the risk according to the GDP at risk measure, which you saw earlier in our earlier presentation. So, by looking at this is a graph showing the last 200 years of various defaulting countries. So on this line we have the total number of countries that are going to default, and you can see some of them could have larger durations, so for that reason it could be higher. So it's categorized based on various continents. And these peak events that you can see is also pointing to the Great Depression debt crisis, and also emerging country debt crisis in 1920s in this area. So generally these are events that happen, and is seen historical and some frequency in that. So again, to summarize that, in the last 100 years, we have seen 120 defaults in various countries. Obviously, most of these have been in underdeveloped or emerging countries, rather, but we've also seen these happening in more advanced economies, or the chance that recently is picking up with that regards. Also, important thing that I'll show later, these things can also happen in cascades, that several events happening in shorter period of time. So just to give an overview, this actually shows the amount of sovereign debt in default. So for the total global value, which goes around 400 billion that we can see. So I've picked two countries like Greece and Argentina, that during the two crises Argentina have that much amount of the sovereign debt has gone into default, as well as with recent crisis in Greece. So just a flavor of probability of such events, we are showing 1 in 5 year 1 in 50 scenario, looking at the 5-year CDS spreads, that gives us that probability estimation. So now that I've shown some historical frequencies and occurrences of various defaults, we just go to our scenario. Although, I mean, during the development of this scenario, there were more chances of exit of the European countries from the euro area, but at the same time, that might seem a more faded problem. But at the same time, although recent measures taken by the European Central Bank to stabilize the euro area, that hasn't helped much, according to some. So how does scenario work? We've got 3 phases. So we look at the hypothetical scenario of Italy's exit from euro area. So in the first phase, we have the change of government. So the anti-austerity rallies turn into demonstrations. Parliament forces Renzi to resign, and then we'll have a coalition of more populist parties with the other parties such as Lega North, which have sort of more anti-European views. So that would cause the exit of Italy, basically declaring as a political movement, declaring the exit from euro area. That would significantly cause the devaluation of the debt. So that would cause a 50% devaluation in that region. So the third one, we are actually looking at the consequences of Italy's exit that would cause other peripheral countries to exit as well. So Spain, followed by Portugal, Ireland, and Greece will also declare their exit. So that becomes actually a basically trigger of the scenario. So now these countries are out of euro. So these are similar to other scenarios that you so earlier. We have 4 key economic variables that we shock, and namely we are looking at the devaluation of the gross debt, and that has a basically effect on other core European countries which have to pick the tab and increase their debt by total aggregated value of that, and that would cause the sort of contagion of that event to other countries. So again, to emphasize, we have in our scenario 1, we have 5 countries which exit. Then in scenario 2, we have more stronger nations, namely France and Germany, getting affected by these measures, as you can see. And in more extreme scenario, we just increase the shock variables. So as a consequence of shock to that, key economic variables, we'll see various depreciation in equity prices, increasing government bond spreads, and reduction in consumer confidence. So just to summarize some of the key outcomes of such models, what we can see in the inflation, initially we will have some spikes in our in the forecasted inflation. Then we will have, as the market moves to a more pessimistic sentiment, we will have long-term downgrading, long-term. We look at the inflation, which has gone lower than the initial spike. So short-term interest rates go almost to zero. Obviously, I haven't shown the longer-term one. That's a different story. What we can see in the credit ratings, As you can see, countries which were directly in the scenarios that have quite significantly been affected, although other countries in the core European area are also affected, but countries like China, which probably have less trade-wise or currency exchange to the euro area, have you can see they're less downgraded compared to that. But the downgrades are quite significant in those key countries that were in the scenario. So again, we can see the recession severity also sort of same story. You can see for those countries it's gone quite down, although for other countries might be not that significant, but we can see a global trend of most countries affected by the shocks to our exit of that euro countries. So just to show the final macroeconomic impacts, we see again the GDP at risk measure is quite long-term compared that to the previous one, so we can see the effect remains there for more than 3-4 years. Then that's quite significant. Obviously, with the more significant scenarios, it is higher. Again, just to be consistent with the others, I'll just show one slide for the impact on portfolios. So the effects are a bit more differentiated with different portfolios, but at the same time, most of them are affected by this. Yeah, so that's it. Thanks a lot.